What if I told you that the most powerful man in Chicago lost everything because of a single tap on his phone screen? Not a bad business deal, not a betrayal, just one button. This is the story of how Marcus Romano became a king and a ghost in the same night. Marcus Romano held the entire city in the palm of his hand, but he lost his whole world in one terrible moment. The most dangerous man in Chicago made a fatal error on the biggest night of his life. It wasn't about money going bad. It wasn't about enemies at the gate. It was about a button on his smartphone. When his wife, Elena, rang him for the 5th time that evening, he chose not to answer. He didn't just silence the call. He blocked her number completely. He convinced himself she was being unreasonable. He told himself there would be time to make things right later. He was catastrophically wrong. While he stood in a ballroom, raising expensive champagne to celebrate his victory, Elena was gasping her final breath. The voicemail she left behind would torment him every single day until his own death. The massive crystal chandeliers hanging in the Drake Hotel's grand ballroom did more than shine. They seemed to pass judgment. Under their glittering light, Chicago's most powerful people moved through the space like predators circling prey. Politicians rubbed shoulders with technology billionaires and families whose wealth went back generations. They all clinked glasses filled with Dom Perignon, pretending not to know that many men in that room had committed terrible acts hidden beneath expensive manicures and designer suits. Standing at the very center of this gathering was Marcus Romano. He wore his tuxedo like a weapon. The custom Brioni suit fit him so perfectly, it looked dangerous. And he carried himself like someone who owned not just the building, but the entire neighborhood and every cop who walked its streets. Marcus ran the Romano Crime Organization, though the formal invitation described him as a logistics entrepreneur. This night represented his crowning achievement. He was about to finalize a massive merger with the DeLuca family that would make his criminal empire appear completely legitimate and transform his illegal money into something so clean it would shine like diamonds. But something kept interrupting. His phone would not stop buzzing in his pocket. Marcus clenched his jaw, the muscles in his face tightening as he forced himself to smile at a senator whose name meant nothing to him. The vibration came again. It was the 5th call in just 10 minutes. "Excuse me, Senator," Marcus said, his voice smooth and controlled, hiding every bit of his growing frustration. "Critical business matter. I'm sure you understand." "Of course, Mr. Romano. Money never sleeps, correct?" The senator laughed, completely unaware that Marcus was fighting the urge to hurl his phone into the elaborate ice sculpture shaped like a swan that sat behind them. Marcus stepped away from the crowd, walking toward the velvet-covered pillars near the balcony. He pulled the phone from his pocket. The screen illuminated, showing a photo of a beautiful woman with golden blonde hair and eyes the color of tropical water. Wife calling. "Damn it, Elena," Marcus muttered under his breath, staring at the screen. They had argued before he left their luxury apartment. It was the same fight they always had. She wanted him to leave this life behind. She wanted something normal. She kept insisting she had a terrible feeling about this particular night. She was always having terrible feelings. It was paranoia, nothing more. Being married to a crime boss meant living in a beautiful prison, and recently, Elena had been rattling the bars of that cage until Marcus felt his head would explode. He declined the call. He turned back toward the party, spotting Vincent, his most trusted advisor and oldest friend, signaling to him from the bar. Vincent looked tense. That meant the DeLucas had arrived. This was the critical moment, the deal that would change everything. The phone buzzed again. Marcus stopped moving. The phone was ringing again. Fury ignited in his chest, hot and unreasonable. He was trying to build a future for them, for God's sake. He was trying to secure the exact safety she constantly worried about. Could she not give him one single night? Just one night to claim his throne without her reminding him of what he really was. He unlocked the phone, his thumb hovering over the green answer button. He could pick up. He could tell her harshly to stop bothering him. But that would pull him into an argument he did not have the mental energy for right now. He needed to stay sharp for the DeLucas. He needed 0 distractions. "Stop calling me," he whispered to the device, his eyes cold and hard. He tapped into settings. He tapped block contact. The buzzing stopped. The phone went silent. Just glass and metal with no life in it. A twisted wave of relief washed through him. Silence. Finally. He slipped the phone back into his jacket pocket, smoothed his suit, and walked toward Vincent. He felt lighter, unburdened. He told himself it was only for a couple of hours. He would unblock her number when he got into the car later. He would buy her that emerald bracelet she had been admiring at Cartier as an apology gift. She would be angry at first. She would cry. But then she would forgive him. That was how their relationship worked. "Everything okay, boss?" Vincent asked, handing him a fresh drink. Vincent was a man who rarely spoke, built like a concrete wall and just as tough. "Fine," Marcus said, tasting the whiskey. It was Macallan 25, smooth as silk. Just Elena being anxious. Vincent frowned slightly. "She's been really stressed lately, Marcus. Maybe you should—" "I handled it," Marcus interrupted sharply, his tone making it clear the subject was closed. "Where is Anthony DeLuca?" "Private lounge on the 3rd floor. He's waiting for you." Marcus nodded. "Let's go make history." The meeting with Anthony DeLuca was a masterclass in controlled tension. The private lounge was dimly lit, filled with the smell of expensive cigars and leather. Anthony, the head of the rival organization, sat on a leather sofa with 2 bodyguards flanking him, who looked like they could crush concrete with their bare hands. "Romano," Anthony said, swirling cognac in his glass. "I was starting to think you got lost." "Just taking care of minor distractions, Anthony," Marcus replied smoothly, sitting across from him. He meant the interruptions. He meant the noise. For the next 2 hours, Marcus was completely in his element. He negotiated percentages, territories, and distribution routes with surgical precision. He was charming, dangerous, and brilliant. He completely forgot about the phone in his pocket. He forgot about the bad feeling Elena had mentioned. He was winning. By the time they shook hands, it was almost midnight. The merger was complete. Marcus Romano was now untouchable. "To the future," Anthony said, raising his glass. "To the future," Marcus echoed. He left the lounge feeling invincible. Adrenaline still pumped through his veins as he walked down the grand staircase back to the main ballroom. The party was winding down, but the energy remained high. He caught Vincent's eye. "Get the car," Marcus said. "I want to go home. I want to tell my wife she's married to the King of Chicago." Vincent nodded and spoke quietly into his communication device. Marcus stepped outside into the cold November air. The city sounds, sirens, honking cars, the hum of millions of lives, usually calmed him. Tonight, the silence of his phone suddenly felt very loud. He reached into his pocket. He should unblock her now. Call her to say he was coming home. Maybe wake her if she had fallen asleep. He pulled out the phone. He went to his blocked contacts and tapped unblock. Almost instantly, the phone exploded with notifications. 18 missed calls from Elena. 4 missed calls from an unknown number. Voicemail waiting. Marcus frowned. 18 calls? That was not just being unreasonable. That was panic. Then a text message appeared. It was not from Elena. It was from the unknown number. She screamed your name. You should have answered. The world stopped. The street noise disappeared. The cold air turned to ice in Marcus's lungs. He stared at the text, his brain refusing to understand the words. Boss. Vincent's voice sounded like it was coming from miles away. The car is here. Marcus did not move. His thumb shook as he pressed play on the voicemail. It was time-stamped 9:45 in the evening, right when he had been shaking hands with Anthony DeLuca. Right after he had blocked her. The message started with static. Then came a sound that would tear Marcus's soul into pieces for the rest of his life. Heavy, ragged breathing and a whisper, terrified and wet as if spoken through tears. Marcus, please. They're inside the apartment. I'm hiding in the closet, but I can hear them. Why won't you answer? Marcus, baby, please pick up. I'm terrified. They found me. Marcus. The whisper cut off with the sound of wood breaking, a door being smashed open, then a scream. Her scream. High, piercing, filled with absolute terror. Then a man's voice, low and mocking. "He blocked you, sweetheart. Looks like you're not the priority tonight." A gunshot. Loud. Final. Then silence. Then the automated voice. End of message. Marcus dropped the phone. It shattered on the sidewalk, the screen fracturing into a spiderweb of cracks. "Marcus!" Vincent grabbed his shoulder. "What happened?" Marcus looked at Vincent, his eyes wide, hollow pits of darkness. His face had turned the color of ash. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He just pointed at the broken phone on the concrete. "Home," Marcus choked out, the word tearing from his throat like broken glass. "Get me home. Right now." He did not wait for anyone to open the car door. He scrambled into the back seat of the Mercedes, screaming at the driver. "Drive! Run every red light. If you stop, I will kill you myself." The driver slammed the accelerator, the heavy vehicle lurching forward, tires screaming. Marcus sat in the back seat, rocking back and forth, his hands gripping his hair, pulling until it hurt. I blocked her. The drive to their apartment building normally took 20 minutes. Tonight, it felt like 20 years. Every second was agony. He kept replaying the voicemail in his head. "He blocked you, sweetheart." Who? Who knew he had blocked her number? How did they know? The car screeched to a stop in front of his building. Before the wheels finished turning, Marcus was out the door. He did not wait for Vincent. He sprinted into the lobby. The doorman was not at his post. The lobby was completely empty. That was wrong. There was always security here. "Elena!" Marcus roared, his voice echoing off the marble walls as he slammed his hand against the elevator button. It was too slow. He ran for the emergency stairs. Penthouse, 40 floors up. He did not care. He ran until his lungs burned, until his legs felt like lead, until he burst through the service door onto the top floor. The door to his penthouse was slightly open. The expensive wood was splintered around the lock. Marcus drew the gun he kept in his shoulder holster, a custom .45. His hand was shaking so violently he could barely hold it. He stepped inside. "Elena," he whispered. The penthouse was silent. The panoramic view of the Chicago skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, completely indifferent to the horror inside. He walked into the living room. Overturned furniture, shattered vases, signs of a struggle. He followed the trail of destruction down the hallway toward the master bedroom. "Please," he begged the empty air. "Please let her be gone. Taken. Kidnapped. Anything except..." He pushed the bedroom door open. The room was untouched, except for the walk-in closet door. It had been kicked off its hinges. Marcus walked toward it, his heart hammering against his ribs like a caged animal. He stepped over the broken wood. And there she was. Elena was curled up in the corner, among her designer dresses and shoes. She still wore her silk robe. Her phone was clutched in her hand, her thumb resting on his contact photo. There was a single bullet wound in her chest. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing, glazed over with the finality of death. A dried tear track marked her cheek. Marcus's knees gave out. He collapsed onto the floor, crawling toward her. He dropped his gun. He reached out, his hands trembling violently, and touched her face. It was still warm. She had not been gone long. If he had not blocked her, if he had answered the first time, he could have sent security. He could have called the police. He could have heard the intruders breaking in. He could have saved her. "No," Marcus moaned, a sound of pure animalistic grief. He pulled her body into his lap, rocking her, staining his white tuxedo shirt with her blood. No, Elena, wake up! I'm here! I unblocked you! Look, I'm here now!" He buried his face in her neck, breathing in her scent. lavender and vanilla, now mixed with the copper smell of blood. Vincent burst into the room, gun drawn, 2 other guards behind him. He saw Marcus on the floor, cradling his dead wife, and lowered his weapon. Vincent, the man of stone, looked away, unable to witness the complete destruction of his boss. Marcus lifted his head, tears streaming down his face, mixing with the blood on his shirt. His grief was transforming, hardening into something brittle and razor-sharp. He looked at Elena's phone still in her hand. He gently took it from her grip. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. He saw the last text she had tried to send him. It had not gone through because he had blocked her. "It's Anthony. I saw him on the security camera before he cut the feed. He's not at the hotel, Marcus. It's a trap." Marcus stared at the words. Anthony. The man he had just shaken hands with. The man he had just toasted with. Anthony DeLuca had not been in that private lounge. It was a body double, or a recording, or some game Marcus had been too arrogant to see through. Marcus looked up at Vincent. The tears stopped. The sobbing stopped. When Marcus spoke, his voice was no longer human. It sounded like a graveyard gate swinging open in the darkness. "Vincent." "Yes, boss." "Burn this entire city to the ground." The penthouse reeked of bleach and iron. 4 hours had passed since Marcus found Elena. Her body had been removed by a private medical team. Marcus refused to let the Chicago Police Department touch her. He would not allow her to become a statistic, a file folder on some detective's desk, or a photograph on the evening news. In his world, you did not dial 911. You called the cleaners. Marcus sat in the leather armchair in the corner of the bedroom, staring at the exact spot where she had died. He had not changed his clothes. The blood on his white tuxedo shirt had dried into a stiff, rust-colored map of his failure. Vincent entered the room, his footsteps heavy. He carried a tablet computer. "We have the security logs, Marcus," Vincent said quietly, "and we know how it happened." Marcus did not look up. He was spinning his wedding ring around his finger. "Tell me." "The man at the Drake Hotel was not Anthony DeLuca," Vincent explained, his voice grim. "It was his cousin, Stefan. They have a similar build, similar features. With the dim lighting in the lounge and the distance, we did not spot the switch." Stefan wore a prosthetic nose and height-increasing inserts in his shoes. He barely spoke during the meeting. His attorney did all the talking. Marcus closed his eyes. It was so simple. A parlor trick. While Marcus was busy feeling important, busy signing documents to legitimize his business, the real Anthony DeLuca was here, in his home, murdering his wife. "And the entry?" Marcus asked. "How did they get inside?" Vincent hesitated. There was no forced entry at the main door. The service elevator was accessed with a valid keycard, and the alarm system was disarmed from the internal control panel. Marcus stopped spinning his ring. He looked up, his eyes burning with a cold, terrifying intelligence. Internal access. Yes. Someone with level 5 clearance. Level 5. That was the inner circle. Only 3 people had that level of clearance. Marcus, Vincent, and Thomas Cross, his chief of operations. "Where is Thomas?" Marcus asked. "He's downstairs, coordinating the street teams. He's been securing the territory since you gave the order." Marcus stood up, his joints cracked. He walked over to the nightstand where Elena's phone lay. He picked it up. The screen still displayed the cracked notification. He unlocked it. He went to her messages. He needed to see the complete timeline. 8:30 in the evening. "Marcus, I hear something outside. Please answer." 8:45. "I think someone is in the hallway. Why are you blocking me?" 9 o'clock. "I'm hiding in the closet. I love you. Please, Marcus." He read them over and over. Each timestamp was a dagger to his heart. At 8:45, he was laughing at a joke the senator made. At 9 o'clock, he was pouring expensive scotch. "Eddie," Marcus called out. A frantic-looking young man in a hoodie and glasses rushed into the room. Eddie Miller was the best hacker in the entire Midwest. He looked terrified to be in the room with the blood-soaked crime boss. "Yes, Mr. Romano?" "The unknown number," Marcus said, holding up his own phone. "The one that sent me the text. She screamed your name. You should have answered. Trace it." Eddie took the phone with shaking fingers. He connected it to his laptop computer. "Give me 2 minutes." The room fell silent, except for the furious typing of keys. "It's a burner phone, obviously," Eddie muttered. "Pinged off a cell tower on the south side." "But wait," Eddie frowned. The geolocation data was not scrubbed properly. Whoever sent this either wanted you to see it, or they were arrogant enough not to care. "Where?" "A warehouse in the Pilsen district, 220 West 18th Street. It's registered to a shell company owned by Atlas Logistics." Marcus's eyes narrowed. Atlas Logistics was a DeLuca front operation. "It's a trap," Vincent warned. "He wants you to go there. He wants to finish what he started." Marcus walked to the closet, his closet, and pulled out a fresh black suit. He stripped off the bloody tuxedo shirt, throwing it into the corner. He did not care if it was a trap. He hoped it was. He wanted them all gathered in one place. He strapped on his shoulder holster, checking the magazine of his .45. Then he grabbed a second weapon, a snub-nosed .38, and strapped it to his ankle. "Vincent," Marcus said, buttoning his black shirt, "gather the team, but do not bring Thomas." Vincent raised an eyebrow. "You suspect him?" "The alarm was disabled from the inside, Vincent," Marcus said, checking his reflection in the mirror. He looked like death itself. "Thomas was the one who told me last week that Elena was becoming a liability with her anxiety. He was the one who suggested I needed to focus on the merger tonight without any distractions. He planted the seed in my mind." "He's been with us for 10 years, Vincent argued weakly. "And Judas was with Jesus for 3, Marcus replied, turning toward the door. "We're going to Pilsen. If Anthony is there, I'm going to peel the skin off his face. If he's not there, I'm going to find someone who knows exactly where he is." The warehouse in Pilsen smelled of stagnant water and rotting fish. It was an old meat-packing facility that the DeLucas used to move contraband cigarettes and occasionally people who needed to disappear. Marcus did not arrive with any tactical strategy. He did not care about stealth or surprise. 2 black SUVs smashed through the chain-link fence at 2 a.m. Marcus's men, a squad of 6 heavily armed enforcers, poured out of the vehicles. Gunfire erupted immediately. The DeLuca guards stationed outside were expecting some kind of retaliation, but they were not expecting the sheer ferocity and rage of the Romano crew. Marcus stepped out of the second SUV. He walked calmly through the chaos, his gun raised and ready. A guard popped up from behind a shipping crate. Marcus put 2 bullets in his chest before the man could even blink. He moved steadily toward the main office door. Bullets sparked against the metal siding around him, but he did not flinch. He was in a trance-like state, fueled by a dangerous cocktail of grief and adrenaline. He felt untouchable because, in his mind, he was already dead. Vincent kicked the office door open with brutal force. Inside, 3 men were frantically scrambling to shred documents. 2 of them reached for weapons. Vincent dropped them both with precise shots. The third man froze in terror. He was a mid-level operative in the DeLuca organization named Carlos. He was the one holding the burner phone. Marcus walked up to Carlos slowly. Carlos was visibly shaking, his hands raised high above his head. "Mr. Romano," Carlos stammered, "I'm just a messenger, I swear." Marcus looked at the phone on the desk. It was the same model that had sent the text message. "You sent it?" Marcus asked, his voice deceptively soft and calm. "Anthony made me," Carlos cried. "He said it would break you. He said you would come running straight here." "Where is he now?" "I don't know, I swear. He left hours ago. He flew to Mexico to wait until everything cooled down." Marcus picked up a heavy metal stapler from the desk and slammed it down onto Carlos's hand, pinning it brutally to the wooden table. Carlos screamed, a high-pitched wail that echoed through the warehouse. "Do not lie to me, Carlos," Marcus whispered, leaning in close to his face. "Anthony does not run away. He gloats. He celebrates his victories. He's still somewhere in this city. Who let him into my apartment? Carlos sobbed, tears and snot running down his face. I don't know any names, I swear. I only know about the money. Anthony paid someone big, someone very close to you. He bragged about it constantly. He said the king's own knight opened the castle gates. The king's own knight. Marcus straightened up slowly. He looked at Vincent. Vincent looked sick to his stomach. Thomas, Vincent muttered. Cross. The symbolism. It's him. Marcus looked back down at Carlos. One last question. Why Elena? Why not kill me directly? Carlos looked up with fear-filled eyes. Because he knew killing you would just start an immediate war. But breaking you, destroying your heart completely. He said, a broken man makes fatal mistakes. He said you would become sloppy and vulnerable. Marcus stared at Carlos for a long, cold moment. Then he nodded to Vincent. Finish him. Marcus turned and walked out of the office as a single gunshot rang out behind him. He walked back into the cool night air. The industrial district was silent except for the sound of water lapping against the nearby canal. He took out his phone, the one with the cracked screen. He went to his blocked contacts list again. He stared at Elena's name. He had blocked her to focus on business, to secure their future together. And because of that single decision, she died alone, thinking he did not care about her. She died listening to an automated voicemail greeting. A broken man makes mistakes. I'm not broken, Anthony, Marcus whispered to the dark water of the canal. I'm liberated. He turned to his men. We're going back to headquarters. Call Thomas. Tell him we found nothing useful. Tell him to meet us in the war room. Tell him we need to start planning Elena's funeral. The sun was beginning to rise over Chicago as Marcus Romano sat alone in the war room. The space was a soundproof chamber in the basement of his headquarters, lined with dark wood paneling and surveillance monitors. At 4 a.m, the room was thick with dangerous tension. Thomas Cross sat at the long conference table, looking every bit the loyal soldier he had always appeared to be. He was sharp, handsome, and had been Marcus's trusted friend since they were running numbers together as teenagers on the South Side. He wore an expression of practiced concern on his face. Did you find them? Thomas asked as Marcus entered the room. Marcus moved to the head of the table. He did not sit down. He poured himself a glass of water with a completely steady hand. We found a rat, Marcus said calmly. Carlos. He did not survive the interrogation. Thomas nodded solemnly. Good. One less DeLuca breathing. But where is Anthony hiding? Gone. Fled the country. According to Carlos, anyway, Marcus lied smoothly. He watched Thomas very closely. He saw the tiny, almost imperceptible relaxation in Thomas's shoulders, the relief washing over him. Coward, Thomas spat with false anger. We'll find him eventually, Marcus. I promise you that. I've already put a substantial bounty on his head in Mexico. You're a good friend, Thomas, Marcus said, walking slowly around the table toward him. You've always been looking out for my best interests. Like tonight, when you told me to block out all the distractions. Thomas stiffened slightly in his chair. I just wanted the deal to go through successfully, boss. For the family. For all of us. The family? Marcus repeated quietly. He stopped directly behind Thomas's chair. You know, Elena called me 5 times tonight. Did you know that? How would I know that? Thomas asked, not turning around. Because you were texting updates to the killer, Marcus said, his voice dropping an entire octave. The room went absolutely still. Vincent, standing by the locked door, moved his hand to his weapon. Thomas stood up slowly, turning to face Marcus. Marcus, you're grieving. You're not thinking clearly. You're being paranoid. You don't know what you're saying. Carlos talked before he died, Thomas. Marcus lied again, with complete conviction. He gave me the offshore bank accounts. The Cayman Islands transfer. $5 million. Is that what my wife's life was worth to you? $5 million? I didn't kill her, Thomas shouted, his carefully constructed facade finally cracking. I didn't know he was actually going to kill her, I swear. The confession hung in the air like poison smoke. Thomas realized his catastrophic mistake instantly. His face went pale, his eyes darting desperately to the door, then to Vincent, then to the gun lying on the table. "A kidnapping?" Marcus asked, his voice trembling with barely suppressed rage. "You let a wolf into my home just to scare my wife?" "She was dragging you down," Thomas yelled, desperation completely taking over now. "She was making you soft, Marcus. You were going to retire. You told me last month you were seriously thinking about getting out of this life entirely. If you left, the entire Romano Empire would collapse. I did it to save the business. Anthony said he would just take her for a few days, use her as leverage to get a better percentage in the merger, then give her back safely. Then you would finally see that you need power and strength to protect the people you love. You would stay in the game where you belong." "You trusted Anthony DeLuca," Marcus said, shaking his head in complete disbelief. "You trusted our mortal enemy over your own brother?" "I did it for us, for the organization," Thomas pleaded desperately. "But Anthony went rogue. He's a complete psychopath. I had no idea he would actually pull the trigger. You have to believe me, Marcus." Marcus looked at Thomas with a mixture of pity and absolute hatred. "You didn't pull the trigger yourself, Thomas, but you loaded the gun, and you made absolutely certain I was not there to stop what happened." Marcus pulled out his phone. He navigated slowly to the settings menu. "I blocked the woman I loved because of your advice, Thomas," Marcus said quietly. "And now I'm going to do exactly the same thing to you." "Marcus, wait, please." Marcus nodded once to Vincent. Vincent stepped forward smoothly and kicked the back of Thomas's knees with brutal force. Thomas crumpled to the floor. "You're not going to kill me," Thomas gasped. "We're brothers, Marcus. We're family." "No," Marcus said coldly. "Brothers answer the phone when it rings." Marcus grabbed a heavy crystal decanter from the sidebar and smashed it across Thomas's face with devastating force. Thomas collapsed backward, blood gushing from his shattered nose and split forehead, unconscious, but still breathing. "Tie him up," Marcus ordered his guards. "He's not dying yet. Not until he makes one final phone call for us." "To who?" Vincent asked, already dragging Thomas's limp body upward. "To Anthony," Marcus said, methodically wiping his hands clean on a white napkin. "Thomas is going to tell Anthony that I'm dead, that I committed suicide out of overwhelming grief. We're going to play dead, Vincent. And when Anthony comes out of hiding to celebrate his victory," Marcus's eyes were completely dry now, utterly void of any light or humanity. "We're going to show him what a real ghost looks like."